Jupiter is a pretty little town on the east coast of Florida. It's about 90 miles north of Miami. It's not a huge place. It's a safe and orderly place. Ton of nice people live there. Not all of them, by the way, are rich, which is unusual for a coastal town. It's a normal place, in other words. It's the country you remember. You wouldn't mind living there, for sure. But over the weekend, Jupiter, Florida looked less like the America of 1980 and more like the America that Joe Biden is busy creating right now, which is to say chaotic, crazy, out of control. Families sitting on the beach in Jupiter this Sunday watched slack-jawed as a boat carrying dozens of unemployed illegal immigrant Haitians suddenly pulled up on shore. The people inside the boat hopped out, ran through the waves, and scattered. Not what you expect on a Sunday on the beach, but not everybody in Jupiter was surprised to see this happen. Another boat full of Haitians had landed there just this summer, so it's becoming a regular occurrence in Jupiter, Florida. In the end, this Sunday, federal authorities caught a number of the migrants. According to Customs and Border Protection, the Haitians will be processed for removal proceedings. Feel better? You shouldn't. That doesn't mean they're being sent home. In fact, most of them will not be sent home. Most of them will stay here forever. They didn't come here legally, they came here illegally. Take a look at this chart. It shows data compiled by Syracuse University. These are the results of immigration hearings so far under Joe Biden. You'll notice that more than 70% of illegal aliens have been allowed to stay in your country after their so-called deportation proceedings. There's no deportation involved. Immigration officers hate this. They're not allowed to do their jobs, but they're not in control. Joe Biden is in control, and Joe Biden is trying to change this country as fast as he possibly can. You may not know this. Most Americans have no idea it's happening, but the rest of the world is watching closely. So if you live in an impoverished country and you'd like a better job and free schools and free health care courtesy of American taxpayers, come on in. And they are.
The sheriff's office.
The best way I can describe the border right now is chaos. Absolute chaos.
The Arizona National Guard.
This has been the largest surge of immigrants that I have seen in my career.
Since October of this year, Customs and Border Protection reported close to 22,000 encounters in the Yuma sector. That's a 2,600% increase from this time last year. Dennis Cook's backyard overlooks the unfinished border wall. He sees the crossings every day and knows just how overwhelmed Border Patrol is.
There's times when I've called Border Patrol, and Border Patrols, we can't do anything. We're totally booked up. We can't do nothing with them. Since I've been on camera here, I bet you we've had 20 people cross already.
This is totally crazy in third world. You're not supposed to mention it. They've racialized everything, so you can't say anything. Most Republicans have been intimidated into silence. They don't want to be called names. But the truth is, nothing like this has ever happened in the United States, and it's important for two reasons. The first is the rule of law. Remember that? So there are people right now still being held in solitary confinement because they trespassed in a building that technically they own. It's called the Capitol of the United States. And they're still there. They're still in jail. But millions of foreign nationals just walk in, ignoring our laws completely, and that's totally cool because equity or something? How can anybody respect the laws of the United States when they are being ignored by the people in charge of enforcing them? There's a massive cost to that. And here's the second point to make. You cannot overstate the scale of demographic change underway right now in the United States. It's a direct assault on our democracy. Democracy is the process by which the population elects its representatives. If you change the population, you dilute the political power of the people who already live there. This is an assault on democracy. At what scale? Here's an example. Customs and Border Protection caught more than 170,000 foreign nationals crossing into our country from Mexico last month. How many people is that? Well, that's the equivalent of the entire population of Knoxville, Tennessee, in a single month. That's a record, but it's happening every month after month, under Joe Biden. And those are just the people we're catching. So this, and let's not lie about it, this is the Democratic Party's re-election plan. New York is already allowing non-citizens to vote. Expect that trend to spread because equity. It has nothing to do with equity or race. It's about politics. It's the whole point of this. Now, in the end, a lot of these people may turn out to have political views the Democratic Party does not expect whatsoever, particularly the Latino immigrants. We'll have a lot more on that in a minute. But purely as an economic matter, this is a disaster. No wise person would do this. This country is getting poorer, in part because of inflation. No one wants to face that truth, but it is true. Is this really the time to import millions of low-skilled laborers? Probably not. What are all these people going to be doing for work in 10 years? That's a real question. The current labor shortage has accelerated the automation of low-skilled jobs. It's really simple. Ask anybody with a business. Employers can't find workers. How are they responding? Well, they're buying more robots. Food delivery service Grubhub, for example, has rolled out autonomous delivery on college campuses across the country. That's happening everywhere. So there's going to be a lot less low-skilled work available very soon. How's that going to end for us when we've got millions of new arrivals with no jobs? Opening the border may be the single most destructive thing that any administration has ever done to this country.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.